Howdy doody, y'all. Welcome back to my thoughts from Toomer Town. I'm your lovely host, Bruce, as usual. And today I wanted to quickly go over climate change, what I used to know as global warming. Now I know, there's still a lot of people out there who are climate change deniers. It's all a hoax. It's a scam by the scientists and Al Gore to just make a whole bunch of money, and penalize everybody else. All these sorts of things. Now, I'm not going to argue with anybody. I'm not a PhD. I'm not studying this stuff. I just know what I know from my life and from what I read. And, I'm not going to argue or debate, climate models, computer-based models, any of that stuff, I mean, they're only as good as the information you know. And at this point, I admit, I don't think the human race knows a lot about how the climate of the planet really, really works. I mean, that's a very complex thing. And we've never really thought to study it because it was just never really thought about it, right? I mean, it was always there, it always was what we wanted, so what the heck, right? And we really haven't had the means to study it, until we really got into the satellite age. So, I give you all these things, I grant you, you want to pick, holes and all of that, knock yourself out. But, I looked at ice core data, which is as far back in time as you can go. And I looked at the raw data, not the compilations, not the reports, not that stuff. I went to individual ice core studies, from the guys who actually dug in the ice, pulled the ice out, and measured in their data. And that's what I looked at. And when you do that, at least for me, the gases that are of concern, sure enough, they start to tick up, and then tick up rapidly, in coincidence with the Industrial Revolution. They're slightly behind. Now, you can call that a coincidence. Wow, how weird that the planet just decides to warm up when we start burning fossil fuels. I personally, I just don't see it that way. It's just too obvious, the correlation, So I certainly think that if nothing else, there is most definitely a huge rise in the percentage of these gases in our atmosphere compared to where they were. And we're talking just, 150 years ago, right? And as far as that goes, it's man-made. I mean, it tracks, because the Industrial Revolution is when we really started to exploit fossil fuel, right? We moved from steam right into fossil fuel. So, as far as I can tell, it's real. Now, that being said, from my standpoint, what the consequences are going to be and when they're going to happen and how fast they're going to happen, I can't say. Nobody can with any real certainty. So this is a real pot shot at the future health of our planet and what we're going to have to do just to survive on it. Because none of it's going to be pretty. I mean, if we just said, we accepted that what we're living in now is a result. I mean, these incredible heat waves, these massive storms, these, days where you have 20 massive tornadoes just ripping across America. These hurricanes that just destroy entire states. I mean, fires, wildfires that just consume and consume and consume. I mean, if that's part of it, holy moly, what the heck else are we going to have to face? Right? I mean, it could be really, really wicked. And it could put our kids, our grandkids, and their kids at jeopardy. And when you think about it, is that really a gamble somebody really wants to make? You know, I mean, because that's what we're doing. You know, when we're sitting up there, our congressmen, our senators, you know, people in elected offices all over the place, you know, this is what we're doing, our leaders in the world. We are playing with the future. We are playing Russian roulette. You know, and it's one thing to say this, you know, because you know, well, you know, I'm 60, I'm going to be dead before this happens. But, you know, are you really that able to just, you know, commit your kids to that kind of potential future? I hope not. But at any rate, let me make another argument before I sign off on this particular video. And it's not necessarily an argument, it's just something I would like anybody who's a climate denier to think about. And that is one. I would have to bet $100 to 1 that you know of an instance of pollution. Personally. You've seen it yourself. I think we all have, right? Whether that's water pollution, land pollution, littering. I mean, you know, that's pollution. Air pollution, you name it. Right? How many of us have lived next to rivers or lakes that have gotten polluted and had to be reclaimed? How many of us had lived next to landfill or toxic sites that had to be cleaned up? You know, I mean, we all know of instances of man-made pollution. No question about it. You can't escape the fact that we do it. You know, so you can't say, well, it's absolutely, definitely not man-made. You don't know that. We pollute all the time. Second, we all know of situations where we go bull forward with something, not realizing the damage we are going to cause, right? The unforeseen consequences. You know, the nasty pesticides. Remember? Right? These things were great until years later we realized, oh my gosh, they were carcinogenic. Not only to us, but to fish, marine life, all this stuff. You know, I mean, you know, you still get all these people with, you know, the ads for, you know, mesothelioma from, you know, whatever that was. I can't even remember the name. Stupid me. Sorry, you know, with my disease, my brain is not as sharp as it used to be. You know, but, you know, that's another one. But, you know, you even go back to lead. You know, how long did human beings use lead in all sorts of ways before we realized, holy moly, that's not a good idea. I mean, we've done it over and over and over and over again. We've done things where we thought we were fine, everything was cool, everything was groovy, only to find out years, maybe even hundreds of years later, decades later, thousands of years later, that this was absolutely not a good idea. Bad for us, bad for the planet, bad for everything. You know, we know this. We know this is a fact. You can't deny it. You can't walk away from it. It's a fact. So when you look at a situation like this, you have to think to yourself, you know, I know we pollute the planet. I know we pollute the planet in ways we don't even think about and may not even know about for years to come. So why should I take a position now that says this is absolute bogus bunk? No way this is real. When it very, very well could be. I mean, taking a stance of absolute, oh no, this isn't right, is a very dangerous position to take given the potential consequences. So why would you take it? And then why would you, in doing so, put at risk the future of your own children and your own grandchildren? Are you really that comfortable with it? To take that kind of a shot and put that at risk? Really? I would hope, if I was your kids, I would hope you weren't. But I would say, to err in caution would mean, at this point right now, we bust our humps to move away from fossil fuels just as fast as we possibly can. And, yes, it's going to cost us in ways, but we just have to think about that as we go. And we have to think, how do we mitigate that cost? If we're going to put people out of work over here, how are we going to put them back to work over there? Right? If this is going to cost more, how are we going to compensate for that by getting people wages that can allow them to pay for it? Things are going to go hand in hand, but we got to think about it, because otherwise, what could be really, really bad. And as we all sit here watching this video and me making this video, I know I'm not going to be here to see it. So no skin off my nose, But I'm still doing it, I'm keeping my energy costs down as much as I possibly can. I keep all costs down as much as I can. I try to, not impose myself on the system any more than I absolutely have to. And I don't have kids, so, But I just wanted to pass that on because, it bothers me when I hear somebody really, stand up as a true climate denier and just think to myself, are you really willing to make that bet with your kids' futures? Wow. That's a gutsy bet. All right, that's it for today. Well, at least for now. And thank you for listening. Hope it made some sense. Hope it got through to people. And hopefully it'll get some people thinking in ways they might not have been otherwise. All right, everybody. Peace and hang 10.